working with clients that I love working with, not having to listen to someone to tell me this is what you need to do today. Yeah, I think that has been quite a big change for me, where having been employed in, I guess, a big corporate business and just not feeling like anything I wanted to do or wanted to change was listened to, and now being like, actually, I can. I can do that now.
Today's guest is Emmelie Coulson, a self-taught designer, illustrator and a career changer whose work is bold, vibrant, joyful and unapologetic. Emmeli's creative journey is one so many of us will recognise. Always creative, always capable, but quietly carrying the belief that a creative career was only for the exceptionally talented, the abstract thinkers, or the struggling artists barely scraping by. It wasn't until she heard the term commercial artist that everything clicked, that creativity doesn't have to be obscure to be valuable, and that art which communicates clearly, accessibly, and strategically is not only needed, it's powerful. In this conversation, we talk about confidence, self doubt, and that familiar voice asking, "Who am I to think I can do this?" We unpack why branding and illustration are so often misunderstood and underpriced, why design is not decoration but a business tool, and why women in business don't need to shrink, soften, or tone themselves down to fit in.
I am Emmelie. I am a brand designer and illustrator, and I love working with women who really struggle, I guess, to put together the visuals for the feeling that they want to put across. So, yeah, I really try to help them to figure out exactly what that feeling is if they don't know that already, and then to create a lovely brand for them that they really feel like, yes, this is me, and give them lots of confidence to step out in the world and promote their business.
Will you do that with the branding and the illustration as well?
Yes, yes. With the illustrations, I also am trying to create more diverse and inclusive illustrations. I think things have changed quite a bit, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done to, for example, if you're looking in Canva and you're trying to find inclusive illustrations, it is very hard. And quite often the illustrations are in a set, um, like in a set background or circumstance, and it's all the same, and it's not your daily typical life that you can see in those illustrations.
Yeah, I know it's still a long way to go, but it's slowly getting there. And I think what you're doing is really good and positive. So there's a question that I love to ask my guests when they join me on the podcast. When you hear the words bold voices, messy journeys, zero apologies, which part of your journey does that resonate with the most?
Um, I guess my journey to where I am now hasn't been very clean or clear or following a set path. I have been running my own business for about 4 years now, but before that, I've done a lot of other things, creative, not creative. Um, so yeah, I think that's the bit that most resonates with me.
Yeah, and everyone's path is not straightforward, I don't think. And I think you described yourself as a self-taught career changer. What did that label mean to you, regards to being self-taught?
Um, I think parts of it means like it gives me confidence because I know I have taught myself to do these things. On the other hand, I think it feels like I don't have the degree to back it up. Um, I think growing up, I was always kind of not necessarily pushed, but I was told like you need to go to university or you need to get a degree. And that meant for me not feeling like I wasn't confident enough at the time to go to art school or to apply to go to art school. And it meant that I picked a different degree path. I originally studied to be an architectural technician. And then after that college degree, I decided to go to university and do an interior design course. um, because that felt like a safer route to a more steady job, or, yeah, a safer path for my career than going to art school. I think I was told that if I wanted to be an artist, that I obviously, first of all, had to go to art school, I had to get my degree, but then after that, it would be very tough to make a living out of it. And probably because my parents didn't have people around them either that had creative careers. So their idea of having a creative career was to be a painter, or, and the painters that they knew, they were all struggling. They couldn't live off being a painter or an artist. So I think for me, that really instilled this idea of you either need to be really talented and really good and create all these very thoughtful, abstract pieces of art that will sell for, a high amount of money, and that will make you money. But there's only so many people that can do that. And I'm not one of them, because that was never the kind of art that I created. I think mine was a lot more, yeah, draw what you see kind of thing. A lot more, less abstract.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How was that with regards to your confidence at that time? Do you think that hearing people giving you that advice, did you feel that maybe they're right, maybe I shouldn't go down a certain pathway, maybe?
Definitely. I think that has definitely changed the way that I looked at creative careers, feeling that that was the only option if I wanted to have a creative career. I obviously then studied interior design, which I felt was creative enough, but also have a bit of a secure um, job path, which in the end turned out to not be true at all. um, yeah, so I finished my interior design degree, and I moved to the UK, and I just found it really difficult to get a job as an interior designer. Partly, I think, because the things that were taught in uni didn't line up with the actual job. So then that like knocked my confidence again of like, well, actually, I don't know what I'm doing. It's I studied for 3 years and I still don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Trusting myself or my gut enough to say like, yes, I can do this. If you just give me a bit of time, I will learn. I know I have the talent for it, or the basic instinct for how to create a nice interior. But yeah, I think that just didn't line up. And then being quite young as well, I just didn't have that, like, oh yeah, here I am, this is what I do, I can do this, selling myself type um, thing that you need for a job interview. So I think from that, got eventually got a job as an administrator, which I am a very organized person, so it did just really suit my personality quite well. And then, that kind of turned into, it's nice, it's steady, it pays the bills. It's not very creative or adventurous, or I don't feel like I can be ambitious in this, but it's okay. And then I guess that's a very dangerous place to be in when I think it comes to careers, because it's good enough, but yeah.
Yeah, but I know this at the time you probably were thinking, what am I doing here? This is not my chosen creative career path. But you probably didn't know at the time. You're probably picking up a lot of transferable skills as well along the way. I'm sure that in some ways that's probably made you a stronger creative that other creatives might not have had in their creative careers as a designer. They've been just university designer and that's it. But you've got, administration skills to your bow. And do you think there's pressure to figure it out early? Do you think it harms us as creatives?
Yes, I definitely think there is this pressure, or maybe not so much a pressure, but there's just no one, or at least for me, no one taught me what it would be like in the real world. Kind of, I think while I was an administrator, I obviously needed to have some creative outlets. And the first thing that I started doing was upcycling furniture. And I think, I love doing it. You can learn a lot from finding YouTube videos or other things. But the business part of it, I was never taught any of that at university of like, okay, well, if you're wanting to be in this creative career, really the only way was you go and find a job with someone else. It was never, if you want to start your own business, this is what you would need to think about or learn about. Very naively, I guess, when I was doing the furniture, I was like, oh, maybe I could sell this. Or, people are telling you, oh, you're so good at this, go and sell it. I was like, well, if I just build a website and put that there, people will come and like buy everything off me. Which then obviously didn't happen because I didn't know anything about marketing or SEO or selling really.
Do you think there was any moment or anyone in your circles or your creative life that actually helped you in like commercial sense and got you up to speed regards to helping you with SEO and marketing?
Not with the furniture part. I think that just died a slow death. Just, I think I started a family and then, it just became too time consuming and taking up too much space. So then when my son was born, I, I was again in that bit of like, I need to do something creative. So whilst I was on maternity leave, I started doing a lot of illustrations and a lot of children's illustrations. And I think at that point, and I don't know where that switch came from. Like you said, like I can't really pinpoint anyone that helped me, but I don't know if it was like on Instagram, like following other people or kind of figuring out like, oh yeah, there's more to it than just putting it out there and hoping people will see it. And I think I decided to go. I was like, well, if I want this to become something more, I need to go to networking events. And I found a very lovely one for mums, and it was in Edinburgh. So I went through to Edinburgh, and it was a child friendly one as well. So I could bring my son, which was quite important, obviously, as being on maternity leave and always having him with me. So and I think that's where I guess started talking to other women in business and figuring out that, okay, there's a lot for me still to learn here that I need to figure out of like, who's my ideal client? How am I going to sell this? Where are they? Am I going to go to markets to sell cards or do I just do it online? Um, so yeah, I think that was very much a big step for me and where I started learning from other people and figuring things out a bit more, I guess.
Yeah, it's amazing. You might think like it's just a community of just gathering of friends or people that have similar interests, but you'd be amazed how much, local community can support you as well. Because someone might just mention something, go, oh, by the way, I know someone who might need an illustration, and that's how it starts, really.
Yeah, and I think I did get like a couple of jobs out of that and I sold some cards to people and it still wasn't like making me enough money that I felt like, oh, I can leave my job. But it definitely did give me the confidence of people like showing my work and people going like, oh, this is amazing. Where obviously before I hadn't really had that. I think the other thing is that I didn't really know anyone else. Like none of my friends were running their own business. Like everyone I knew really was employed. Um, so yeah, definitely going to that networking event and putting, I guess, my big girl pants on because it wasn't anything that I was like, oh, this is going to be like so stressful meeting all these people and having to do my sales pitch. And it wasn't anything like that. It was a very lovely community feel. Yeah, just trying to help each other.
Yeah, and I think I can see a pattern emerging that you obviously you've got your main job, and that's your bread and butter. That's what you rely on to pay the bills, etc. And I think you've been pivoting in many times in many situations up until that point. I think you mentioned you kind of stay in your comfort zone a bit and sometimes you know that's reassuring. But when has comfort helped you, and when has it held you back?
Well, it definitely has helped me when I went from being employed to being self employed. I still didn't have the confidence to go from, oh, I've been doing this admin job for 10 plus years. I can ditch that and be a brand designer and it will be fine. So, but I really wanted to leave my employed job. It just wasn't working for me anymore. I had two kids by that time, and I just was like, I need something that fulfills me, that works around the kids. And I was chatting to someone who I vaguely knew at the time, who's now one of my best friends, who was pregnant and running her own business, and she needed someone to help her with her admin during her maternity leave. And then I was like, well, I can do that. I've been doing that for 10 years. That is my comfort zone. Obviously, the like running my own business wasn't necessarily my comfort zone, but doing the tasks, I was like, yes, I can do that. So that's kind of where my entrepreneur, or well, I guess not where it started, but that's where I went from being employed to being self employed. And where has it helped me back? Oh, I guess having been in that admin job for 10 years because it was comfortable. I think I would have loved to have left that years before. But I think, yeah, obviously, being a woman, wanting children, having that security of maternity leave, and knowing that you don't need to stress about, bringing new work in or leaving your business for a significant amount of time and not doing any marketing. I think not even thinking at at that time, I want to have my own business, but even like changing jobs was something that felt too scary. So I just stayed in that position of like, well, it's fine here. I'm okay. Um, Even though I wasn't really.
Yeah, I know. I can definitely relate to everything you just said because I was in a similar position with regards to felt like I had responsibilities. I was in an administration role for many years. And I said, yeah, it's paying the bills, paying the pension and contributing. But there's always something as a creative niggling in the back of your mind that is this what I really want to do for the rest of my career? And and it eats away at you. That comfort zone becomes maybe uncomfortable after a while. And sometimes you need that extra push to, I don't know what your push was when you kind of make that final leap into the job that you were doing now.
There were, I think it was a couple of things stacking up. I had to come back from maternity leave and knowing that, you know, two kids, I'm done with having kids. I don't need to stress about another maternity leave. Um, so I was like, okay, I'll try to find a job that feels more fulfilling, but I'll see if I can stay within the company. I didn't want to work full time. I wanted to work part time, and a lot of the vacancies that came up were all advertised as full time. And if I asked, they were like, oh, well, no, I don't think this one will work for part time. Like, no, we can't do a job share with this, which then was obviously very, like, I was like, oh, okay, they keep saying they want working mums to be, they want to support them and they want to give them the right positions and all this, and it wasn't really happening. And I think as well, when I came back, one of my colleagues, who's probably about 10 years older than me, had been working part-time the whole time that I was there. And I came back and she had been promoted but she was now working full time because her kids were old enough that she didn't need to be there anymore. And I could just see, I was like, this is just a glimpse into my future of I'm still working here part time for the next 10 years before I can even think of getting a different job within this company. And I was like, nah, this is not happening. Yeah. So that and a couple of other things where I felt like, no, this I'm not being appreciated where I am. I just want to do something that fulfills me.
Yeah, I think we've all had that penny drop, and it sounds very loud in that case because you saw a future that you didn't like, and in someone else that could be you in, like you said, 10 years' time. So I think your website talks about bold, unapologetic branding, and it helps businesses to grow. How do you define the difference between art for expression versus art for strategy?
I think I didn't really understand the difference until a couple of years ago when I heard someone talk about being a commercial artist. And again, like you're talking about, like the penny dropping, I think that was another really big, significant moment for me where I was like, I always have felt that being a creative, being an artist, you need to have this very, like I said before, like abstract or thoughtful work, or like, and I think with branding, like this really like having smart like designs. And not saying that I can't do that, but it's not necessarily something that comes naturally to me. And then I heard someone talk about like being a commercial artist, and looking into that further, I learned that that is just creating art that people understand straight away, where there's no deeper meaning behind it, or there's no, it does what it says on the tin, right? It's really clear. And I think that's where I really found my talent comes to life, or where, yeah, what really works for me is to combine the strategy behind a brand with the visuals. I think, like I said in my introduction, I really love to help women specifically who have this like feeling of like, oh, I want my brand to feel warm, or like a community that people can just walk into and they don't have to pretend to be someone else, or I want it to feel rebellious, and how to translate that into visuals. So yeah, that's where what I'm really passionate about, like trying to, as well, seeing a lot of female business owners and their branding often being a bit dulled down or very soft and gentle, and that works for some, but I think a lot of us feel like that's what we should show. And yeah, I want to kind of break that and say, no, you can have something that is more vibrant, more colorful, more showing your authority. Yeah.
Why do you think female founders in particular benefit from vibrant, unapologetic brand visuals and not just, pretty kind of aesthetic? What do you think they benefit from it?
What I've found a lot with my clients is that the growing confidence in their business as it evolves, but the branding that often they created as DIY then isn't catching up, or they're not sure how to put that obviously into visuals. And I think quite often inside us, we know we want something more, but we're too scared, or there's too much conditioning that puts us back to having the pretty images. Or yeah, so I really like to find those pieces in my clients of like, what is it that makes you you, and let's like blow it up and put it in your branding.
Yeah, it's probably like revisiting your inner child kind of thing. We find out when life was a lot simpler and before you were an adult, making
Yes.
the inner creative child of your, we all have it
Yeah.
in ourselves to be more adventurous, but we just need to release it. And I think that could come out through our branding like you're doing at the moment. So definitely.
Yeah, and kind of like what are the beliefs that you have around like having your own business as a female business owner? Like, do I need to fit in this box, or can I actually have something that feels much more like me?
Can you share like a moment where like a client or a brand that you'd helped to design change their kind of direction of their business, not just visually, but through how they showed up, and how they felt about the business when they were working with you at any point?
Yeah, I recently had a chat with a previous client about this, and she was saying she came to me because at the time her logo was feeling fine, but she was like, I didn't want it to feel fine anymore. I wanted it to be, and she made this really nice analogy about like if you have a jumper, but if you don't like the jumper, you're not going to wear it. And that was kind of like, she was like, well, my logo was okay, but I didn't love it. So I didn't want to shout about my business. And then afterwards, after we worked together, she was like, oh, it's given me so much more confidence. Before, if people were asking her who, like, acquaintances or friends, she would be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this thing. Where after, like, now she's like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm building this thing. And, she's so much more confident, but also she feels like her business is a proper business now and she can talk about it like it is a proper business.
She's probably trying to sell her own self in some ways. And if you're not happy and confident in your branding or the front facing shop of your business, how are you supposed to be convincing your clients or whoever that they're selling to that you're the right person to work with if you're a bit okay about your logo or okay about your branding?
So I think that is what I often find with clients that come to me. They're often in business for a couple of years because I think it's very hard to know all these things about yourself, about the clients that you want to work with when you haven't started your business yet. So I will never diss anyone that has done their own branding because I think that, not many people have the capital to start with and invest in branding. So a lot of the times they've then figured out like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I want or this is who I am. And that logo or the colors, they just don't work anymore. And it just makes them feel, like you said, maybe not ashamed, but also not like, okay, I'm going to sell this to someone or I'm going to send them to my website or, I'm going to print some flyers and put them out. Actually, one of my lovely clients, that was like her change, like the point where she was like, oh no, I need to do something different, is that she had flyers and she put them out and she felt like, first of all, that they weren't standing out, they were drowning in all the other flyers that were put up on the board. And I think she had created her branding in Canva, and then she saw someone else with a very similar a very similar logo, because obviously in Canva it's a lot of templates that you use, and a lot of people can use the same thing. So yeah, I think for her as well that has really changed. Of like, okay, I have more clarity of where I want the business to go, and I feel like I can achieve that now.
Definitely investing in your business and working with someone like yourself helps to understand, you know, get to see another person's point of view about looking from the outside in, what your values are, and redesigning your branding is just one of those things that she sounds like she's happier in a happier position now. If this episode resonates, follow, leave a review, or you can DM me over on Instagram at Creatively Eccentric. If you would love to be a guest and share your story, register to join the guest waitlist. You'll be the first to hear when applications reopen. The link to sign up will be in the show notes. Part of the conversation I'd love to have with my guests is called Studio Drawer. It's a play on words. It's like the behind the scenes. So that messy drawer that nobody wants to talk about, you chuck your stuff in, and play on words like draw and creativity. If your creative style was a color, texture, or object, what would it be?
First thing that comes to mind is a rainbow, because it's all the colours. And yeah, I think, or at least when I see a rainbow, it always puts a smile on my face, and that's what I always try to do with my designs as well.
Yeah, I've seen that on your website. There's lots of rainbows and you embrace all the colours of the rainbow.
Yes.
Definitely. The next question I have for you is, what is something in your desk or studio drawer that you use to design with that you can't do without?
Probably good old pen and like pencil and paper. I think that's often where I start. Not always, but yeah, start sketching and from that ideas come out. But yeah, I could name another five things. Um, I would say my iPad with Procreate for illustrating, Adobe Illustrator to create the logos. I recently invested in a tool to help um, find better balance in color palettes. So quite often, like, I put color palettes together and they're, I would say, like 95% there. And then I put it in this tool and it tells me where the balance might be off. Sometimes I don't agree with it and I just go with my own thing anyway. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, if I tweak this a bit more, it feels better balanced. So yeah, that's a couple.
What is
Yeah,
your bad creative habit that you want to or don't want to stop doing?
that's a tough one. I think there's like, if it comes to my own projects, starting them and not finishing. If it comes to clients, having that blank page fear, like starting a new project, having ideas in my head, but finding it really hard to start the project. And I was actually recently talking to my coach about this of like, I think in my head, I just want to start and I want to have something amazing already there. Like, or I work for 10 minutes and I've got the idea that's in my head. It's like perfectly on screen, but also like obviously knowing that that's not how it works and giving myself permission to start with just playing about instead of I need to have a finished product within the next hour. Let's just start playing about because quite often if I start the playing about, I'm like, oh, this is really exciting now. I don't want to stop. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm slowly starting to be like, okay, give myself permission to play and to make a mess, and then I'll tidy it up by the time that the deadline comes up.
Yeah, maybe do something more. You probably do already. Do more stuff with your children as well. So have more fun with creativity that way.
Yes, yes. My daughter absolutely loves crafts. She doesn't like tidying up though, so she loves making the mess and then yeah, refuses to tidy up. So it's an uphill battle there.
What question do you wish others would stop asking creatives and why?
Could you just do XYZ for me? I think specifically the just part. I think often it doesn't feel like for others that it isn't a big job, but when you start looking into it, actually a lot of thought goes into. For me, for brand design, for illustrations, and sure, there's people that do it cheaper, but for me, the thing is that I like for the branding and the illustration to have meaning for my clients and to feel a connection with it instead of just being a pretty picture.
Looking back at your non-linear, straightforward, path, what part of your journey only makes sense now, and what does that teach yourself moving forward, or teach other creatives moving forward that going slowly or not achieving isn't the end of the world? Do you think?
That's a hard question. I think, like, obviously, just because you're in a comfortable position doesn't mean that you can't change. But I think as well, not giving a damn about others, growing up or, having been conditioned with what success looks like, I think that has massively changed for me since I left my employed job. Feeling like I don't want to have a six-figure business. It's not something that I'm working towards. I kind of shifted from I need to make XYZ to be successful to if I can pick my kids up from school every day, if I can take some time off if I want to go for a longer walk or meet a friend for a coffee. Those are things now that I'm looking like that for me is being successful in my own business. Working with clients that I love working with, not having to listen to someone to tell me this is what you need to do today. um, yeah, I think that has been quite a big change for me where having been employed in, I guess, a big corporate business and just not feeling like anything I wanted to do or wanted to change was listened to. And now being like, actually, I can. I can do that now.
Yeah, and definitely it's a smaller business. You're probably more agile and you can, make decisions a lot quicker than you could if you were working in a
Yeah.
traditional setting. Yeah. If anybody wants to reach out to you and support you in your business, how would they do that on social media handles?
Yes, I'm mainly on Instagram. My handle is at emmelicoulson.design and my website is emmelicoulson.co.uk.
Wonderful. Emily, this has been a fantastic, and I hope everyone who's listening can resonate with your story. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.